Hello everyone, welcome to our Math Online Classroom, and of course, nasa Module 2 pa rin tayo. And this time, we are going to discuss our Lesson 4 that talks about solving rational inequalities. And our objective, of course, solving rational inequalities. So yung previous video natin, hindi ko na-edit yung title. So, solving rational equation yun. So, ngayon, ito talaga yung solving rational inequalities. Okay? So, let's start here. A rational inequality is composed of rational expressions combined with a sign greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, and less than. So if you will see a rational inequality or rational expression with combined with these symbols, that is an example of rational inequality. Okay? So you have to be familiar with those symbols. Okay? Sige, let's continue. Solve the inequality 2x over x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 1. So we will have the solution. So for rule, letter A, rewrite the inequality as a single rational expression on one side of the inequality symbol and 0 on the other side. So this inequality daw, gagawin natin siyang single rational expression. So, ibig sabihin, so yung 1 there, ililipat natin sa left side. Okay? So, isasama natin siya sa 2x over x plus 1 at sa kabilang side or sa right side is 0 dapat. Okay? So, to do that, we're going to eliminate 1 by subtracting 1 in both sides. So, minus 1 tayo. So, we'll have 2x over x plus 1 minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. So, yung 1, nilipat sa kabila. So, yung gagawin nyo naman is transposition method. So, yung positive 1, kapag nilipat mo sa kabila, nagiging negative. So, pwede rin yun na eliminate 1 by subtracting subtracting 1 in both sides. Okay? So, of course, we're going to make this rational expression single. Kasi dalawa siya, di ba? 2x over x plus 1 at negative 1. So, i-single na lang natin siya. So, paano yun? We're going to simplify. So, the LCD or the least common denominator is x plus 1. Okay? So, we are going to use the least common denominator. So, we all know that negative 1 has a denominator of positive 1. Okay? So, our LCD is x plus 1. So, x plus 1 divided by x plus 1 will give us 1 times 2x will give us 2x. Okay? So, next naman is x plus 1 and the negative 1 over 1 or okay, yan yung problem. So, x plus 1 divided by 1 is positive x plus 1. So, positive x plus 1 times negative 1 will give us negative x minus 1. Okay? So, may negative kasi. That's why naging negative x and negative 1. So, we will combine like terms. So, yung 2x minus x will give us x. So, of course, greater than or equal to 0. So, x minus 1 over x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. So, umulan pa. Okay? So, again, bakit naging x minus 1 na lang yung numerator natin? Kasi 2x minus x will give us x. Okay? Nakita niyo ba sa cursor? Okay? So, that is our first rule or step. Okay? So, second is determine the meaningful numbers by setting the numerator and denominator equal to 0. So, we're going to find for meaningful numbers. So, para gawin yun, of course, yung last natin na x minus 1 and x plus 1, i-equate natin sa 0. So, start muna tayo sa numerator. So, our numerator is x minus 1, i-equate natin sa 0. So, eliminate minus 1 by adding 1 to both sides or transpose mo yung negative 1. Pag nilipat mo sa kabila, magiging positive 1. So, therefore, we'll have x plus 1. Or, eliminate negative 1 by adding 1 in both sides. So, mag-add tayo ng 1 both sides. So, 1 minus 1 is 0. So, natira na lang is positive 1. Therefore, our x is 1. Okay? So, next, denominator naman. X plus 1. So, x plus 1 is equals to 0. So, eliminate positive 1 by subtracting 1. So, we'll have x is equal to negative 1. Okay? So, what next? Mark this on the number line. Use a shaded circle if it's a solution and an unshaded circle if it's not a solution. So, gagawa tayo ng number line. So, paano yung number line? Ganito. So, we will have the positive 1 and the negative 1. So, negative 1 sa left side is sa papuntang positive 1 Okay, so that is our number line. So, paano natin malalaman if it is a solution or not? Of course, napakasimple lang. Yung value ng x, papalitan natin ng 1. Okay? So, try mo natin si positive 1. So, lahat ng x dito, papalitan natin ng 1. Okay? So, 1 minus 1 is 0 and 1 plus 1 is 2. So, 0 divided by 2 will give us 0. So, is it 0 is greater than or equal to 0? So, if it's yes, therefore, it is a solution. So, ibig sabihin, our 1 is a solution. Therefore, it should be a shaded circle. So, kasi our x is part of the solution. Okay? Kasi kung may substitute tayo ng value ng x into 1, 0 yung labas. And 0 is greater than or equal to 0 based on our equation. Therefore, 1 is a solution. So, try naman natin itong si negative 1. So, kapag yung x ba pinalitan ng negative 1, yung answer is greater than or equal to 0. So, yung x, papalitan mo ng negative 1. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And negative 1 plus 1 will give us 0. So since 0 in denominator natin, it is undefined. Therefore, negative 1 is not part of the solution. So therefore, unshaded circle yung ating negative 1. So ibig sabihin, hindi siya solution. Yan na yung ating number line. Kuha? Sige. Continue tayo for letter C. For letter C, choose convenient test points in the intervals by constructing a table of signs. So, gagawa tayo ng table of signs. Okay? So, gagawa tayo ng table of signs based on our number line. So, our interval, so we'll have 3 intervals there based on our number line. So, this one, so, ano yung value ng x natin dyan? Of course, our x there is less than negative 1. So, lahat dyan ng value is less than negative 1. Next naman is numbers in between negative 1 and 1. So, yung x natin dyan is greater than negative 1 but less than 1. Okay? And the third interval, yun dun sa dulo, sa right side, we'll have our value for x which is greater than 1. Okay? So, marunong kayo gumawa ng interval. Again, ganun lang siya kasimple based on our number line. So, we'll assign numbers for our test point based on our given. So, sa test point natin, tayo mag-a-assign ng number depende sa demand. So, our x is less than negative 1. So, ano yung number which is less than negative 1? Let's say, for example, yung x natin dito is negative 2. Again, yung test point natin is tayo yung bahala. Okay? Next is where x is greater than negative 1 and less than 1. Number daw na greater than negative 1 pero less than 1. Of course, 0. Pwede. Okay? So, x is greater than 1. We will have example 2. Okay? So, yung gagawin natin, lahat ng value of our x is ito test point natin. Okay? So, umpisahan mo natin sa numerator natin. Our numerator is x minus 1. So, our x minus 1 is papalitan natin ng lahat ng value ng x na to sa ating test point. Okay? Start muna tayo sa numerator. Again, table of signs lang. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo kailangan i-solve. Yung hahanapin mo lang is kung ano yung sign. Okay? So, sa x minus 1 na to, let's say for example, our x is equal to negative 2. Kapag yung x pinalitan ng negative 2, we'll have negative 2 minus 1. Ano yung magiging sign ng sagot? So, negative 2 minus 1 will give us negative 3. So, ano yung sign niya? So, negative. So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Sign lang. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-solve. Next, if our x is 0, so yung x papalitan ng 0, ano yung sign niya? Yung matira is negative 1, so negative pa rin. Next, if x is 2, 2 minus 1, pero yung sign niya is positive. Therefore, positive siya. Okay? So, ganoon siya kasimple. Sa numerator natin, papalitan yung value ng x. Okay? So, we are done with the numerator. Try naman natin itong denominator, which is x plus 1. Okay? So, x plus 1. So, if x is negative 2, so negative 2 plus 1, ano yung sagot niya? It is negative 1. So, ano yung sign? So, negative. Okay? So, if x is 0, so 0 yung x, ano yung sign ng sagot? Positive 1. Okay? So, kapag 2 naman, so 2 plus 1 will give us positive 3. So, yung sign niya is positive 3. Okay? So, itry naman natin. So, kompletong equation na. So, x plus 1 over x minus 1. So, kailangan mo pa bang mag-substitute? Hindi na. So, yung gagawin mo na lang ganito. I-divide mo na lang. Negative divide by negative will give us positive. Negative divide by positive will give us negative. And positive divide by positive will give us positive. So, ganyan kapag nag-construct tayo ng table of signs. Okay? So, ganun kasimple yung letter C natin. Okay, next. Letter D, express your answer using set builder notation. Okay? So, sa paggawa na ng final answer, magbe-base tayo sa ating final equation. Our equation kasi is x minus 1 over x plus 1 where it is greater than or equal to 0. So yung titingnan natin is yung inequality symbol that is greater than or equal to 0. So when we say greater than or equal to 0, ano dapat yung kanyang sign? Okay, ano dapat yung number, ano dapat yung sign ng number which will say that it is greater than or equal to 0 is positive or negative. So since greater than 0, we are talking with positive numbers, tama? So therefore, lahat ng positive numbers na signs, therefore, part of the solution. Okay? So ano siya? So our solution using set builder notation will have x is an element of real number where our x is less than negative 1 or x is greater than or equal to 0. So magbabasa na tayo sa interval natin. So our x is less than negative 1 and x is greater than 0. Pero bakit dito merong greater than or equal 1? Bakit may equal siya? Kasi nga in our number line, 1 is part of the solution. Di ba shaded kanina yung 1? Ibig sabihin, yung 1 is part of the solution. That's why our x is greater than or equal to 1. So, ganoon na siya kasimple. Okay? So, para mas maintindihan, let's have this another example. Okay? Example number 2, solve the inequality 3 over x minus 2 is less than 1 over x. Of course, sa letter A natin na rule, we write the inequality as a single rational expression on one side of the inequality symbol and 0 on the other side. So, si 1 over x is ililipat natin sa kabila. So, paano siya gawin? We'll just subtract 1 over x in both sides. Okay? Subtract mo lang. So, we will have the final equation, 3 over x minus 2 minus 1 over x is less than 0. Okay? So, yung inequality symbol hindi nagbabago. Basta equate mo lang siya, basta 0 lang sa other side. Okay? So, pwede rin yun, di ba, positive 1 over x, ilipat mo sa kabila, so magiging negative. That's why negative 1 over x. So, para pag ayaw mo so for example, eliminate both sides by subtracting or adding, ganun. So, pwede mo siyang i-transpose na lang. Okay? So, it's up to you. Okay? Next. So of course the common denominator or least common denominator of x of minus 2 and x is x times x minus 2. So yan yung kanyang common denominator. So simplify natin para maging single rational. So 3 over x minus 2 times x minus 2. So cancel x minus 2, cancel x minus 2. So 3 times x will give us 3x. Okay? Next, yung negative 1 over minus 1 over x naman tayo. So, cancel x, cancel x. So, x minus 2 times 1 is x minus 2. So, since may negative, so minus mo siya. So, negative times x will give us negative x and negative times negative 2 will give us positive 2. That's why we have negative x plus 2. Or, you can go directly like x divided by x is 1. 1 times x minus 2 is 1 times negative 1. Direct mo sa kaagad na negative x plus 2. Okay, so combine like terms. So, 3x minus 2 will give us 2x plus 2. Okay, so 3x minus x is 2x. So plus 2 over x times x minus 2 is less than 0. Okay, so our 2x plus 2 can be simplified. Tama? So common factor is 2. So we'll have 2 over x plus 1 over x times x minus 2. Naintindihan ba yun? So, yung 2x plus 2 na factor natin, which is 2 times x plus 1. Alright, sige, next. Letter B, determine the meaningful numbers by setting the numerator and denominator equal to 0. So, i-equate natin siya sa 0, si numerator and denominator. So, start muna tayo sa numerator. So, 2 times x plus 1 is equal to 0. So, distribute natin, 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 1 is 2. So, we have 2x plus 2 is equal to 0. Eliminate positive 2 by subtracting negative 2 in both sides. Eliminate 2 by dividing 2. So we'll have x is equal to negative 2 divided by 2. That will give us negative 1. So our x is negative 1. So may isa na tayong meaningful numbers. Okay, next. Sa denominator naman, again, our denominator is x times x minus 2. So, hindi natin siya ma-equate sa 0 ng sabay. So, hihiwalay natin si x at si x minus 2. So, sa x muna natin. So, x equate natin sa 0. X is equal to 0. So, yan na siya. So, hindi mo na kailangan mag-solve. Next is x minus 2. Equate natin sa 0. So, eliminate minus 2 by subtracting 2 both sides. So, we'll have x is equal to 2. So, meron na tayong 3 na nakitang meaningful numbers. So we can now have our number line. So mark this on the number line, use a shaded circle if it's a solution, and unshaded circle if it's not a solution. Okay? So ano yung meaningful numbers na nakita natin sa number line? That is negative 1, we will have 0, and 2. Okay? So iti-test natin kung negative 1, 0, and 2 are part or not part of the solution. So, try mo natin si x is equal to negative 1. So, yung gagawin mo, si negative 1 dito, papalitan mo lahat ng x, papalitan mo ng negative 1. So, meron tayo dito yung example. This one. Okay? So, kapag yung x pinalitan ng negative 1, we will have this one. Okay? So, kapag yung x pinalitan ng, so for example, negative x minus 1 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So, negative 1 times, negative 1 minus 2 is minus 3 times negative 1 will give us positive 3. So 0 over 3 is 0. So is it 0 less than 0? Okay? So ito ba? Is it 0 less than 0? So hindi. So it does not satisfies our equation. Therefore, negative 1 is not part of the solution. Okay? Next. Kapag yung x naman is equal to 0, so yung x, papalitan mo ng 0. So sa denominator pa lang, kapag pinalitan mo ng 0, yung denominator niya magiging 0. At kapag 0 yung denominator, magiging undefined. Therefore, it is not part of the solution. So 0 is not part of the solution. So unshaded circle pa rin. Next, yung 2 naman. So kapag yung 2, ito, sa denominator tayo mag-focus. So for example, 2, palitan natin ng 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. So 0 ulit yung kanyang denominator. So undefined pa rin. So 2 is still not part of the solution. Okay? So unshaded circle silang lahat. Okay? Sige. Next. Continue tayo. So we will now have our table of signs. Okay? So our intervals based on our number line. So apat yan. No? So our x is less than negative 1. Our x is greater than negative 1 but less than 0. Ano pa? Ito, our x is greater than 0 but less than 2. And of course, our x is greater than 2. So, marunong kayong gumawa ng interval? Okay, ganoon siya. Next, test point tayo. We will assign number for x na depende sa gusto mo. Okay, basta it satisfies our condition. So, our x is greater than negative 1. So, we'll have x is equal to negative 2. And for our x greater than negative 1 but less than 0, we'll have x is equal to negative 1/2. And for x is greater than 0 but less than 2, we will have x as equal to 1. And for x is greater than 2, we will have x is equal to positive 3. Okay, so again, our last equation is 2 times x plus 1 over x times x minus 2 is less than 0. So, start muna tayo sa numerator. Okay, so 2 over x minus 1. So yung x papalitan ng negative 2. So negative 2 minus 1 will give us negative 3. So negative 3 times 2 will give us negative. So yung sagot niya is negative. Again, sign lang po yung ilalagay. Okay? So kapag negative naman, x is equal to negative 1/2, yung sagot niya is positive. Kapag yung x naman is 1, yung sagot niya is 1 minus 1 is 0, so positive. And for 3 naman, 3 minus 1 is positive, so positive pa rin. Okay? Next, for x naman. For x, kapag yung x is negative 2, of course negative. Kapag ang x ay negative 1/2, of course negative. Kapag ang x is 1, of course the sign is positive. At kapag yung x is 3 is, x is 3, of course we'll have positive. Okay? Next, we have x minus 2. So yung x papalitan ng negative. So negative 2 and negative 2 will give us negative. So negative yung sagot. Negative then. For 1, palitan yung x ng 1, you'll have negative. And for x is 3, of course, the sign is positive. Okay? So, i-combine na lang natin or hindi natin direct na lang natin. So 1, negative divided by positive kasi negative times negative is positive. 1 times negative will give us negative. Positive divided by positive will give us positive. Positive divided by negative will give us negative. And positive divided by positive will give us positive. So that's it. Meron tayong table of signs. Okay, next, continue. Letter D, express your answer using set builder notation. Again, ating susundan lang is yung inequality symbol. Ano yung inequality symbol natin? That is less than 0. So kapag less than 0, pasok ba anong signs ng mga numbers that are less than 0? Of course, that is negative. Okay? So ibig sabihin lahat ng negative doon pasok sa less than 0. So ano yung equation niya? So ano yung condition niya? Of course, ito. Our x is less than negative 1 and of course, our x is greater than 0 or less than 2. Okay? So, therefore, our x is an element of real number such that x is less than negative 1 or x is greater than 0 and less than 2. So, ganoon siya kasimple. Basta meron tayong set builder notation or pag meron tayong table of signs na construct, mabilis tayong maghanap ng solution for our x that will satisfy our equation. Alright? Okay.